You still call love what is merely weakness disguised as sweetness. You still kneel before the maternal womb as if there lay a sacred altar, not out of reverence, but out of cowardice. True imprisonment has no bars or locks. It manifests in memories that are too tender, in nostalgias that make you sick, in silences begging for a lap to cry on. The image of the mother, when poorly digested by the soul, is not tenderness. It is emotional tyranny. I do not hate mothers. I hate the blind cult of them. Idolatry is prison, and emotional prison is what paralyzes the will to power. Whoever does not symbolically kill his mother will remain forever a child, asking for comfort in the beds he calls love, kneeling before affections that only drown him. Ah, modernity, this emotional brothel where each needy soul begs for validation. I tell you, love that idolizes does not liberate, it humiliates. You call it respect for the mother, but what I see is fear. Fear of surpassing her, fear of becoming great, for greatness brings guilt. There is an invisible inheritance, a chain made of tears she never shed, which now binds you, not out of loyalty, but out of weakness. The mother suffered, and then the son suffers for her. This is the morality of slaves applied to the family, a silent pact with suffering, a fidelity to pain as if betraying the past were a crime. What audacity it would be to be happy when she was unhappy. What monstrosity it would be to succeed where she failed. But I tell you, there is no true honor without overcoming. If you love your mother, be greater than her, or be silent forever. You do not understand. Idealizing is a form of dehumanizing. When you transform your mother into a saint or a demon, you flee from truth. Idolatry is fear of looking into reality's eyes. And reality, my friends, is never perfect nor infernal. The man who idealizes his mother does not love her. He uses her as an excuse to remain stagnant. If she was wonderful, then no one else will ever be enough, and you remain alone. If she was cruel, then all women are threats, and you remain at war. The maternal archetype is a ghost that dresses everyone in the clothes of the past. Destroy it, not with hatred, but with courage. The courage to see the real woman behind the mythic figure, and then perhaps to see yourself for the first time. But you prefer to abandon yourself. Ah, yes. How comfortable to mistreat yourself in the same way you were treated. Some call that trauma, others personality. I call it cowardice. When the coldness you received becomes your way of living, you are not a victim. You are an accomplice. You yourself become the new jailer of your soul. Your mother's rigidity was inherited as a lens. Now you judge yourself, punish yourself, mutilate yourself emotionally in the name of discipline. What a beautiful illusion, dressing the prison in the name of resilience. But true rebellion is not hardening, it is softening where once you were wounded. It is reclaiming the right to feel without fear. And that, yes, requires a strength your therapists have not yet dared to name. And then comes the most pathetic delusion, that of salvation, waiting for another, for the great caretaker, for the love that will finally see you. What spiritual misery. You have replaced the mother with partners, gurus, psychologists, pastors, all unconsciously called to fulfill the same role, caring for a child who refuses to grow. The problem is not help, but illusion. The hope that someone will come with the perfect embrace, the exact word, the redeeming touch. I tell you, no one will come, neither mother nor God nor idol. Maturity begins at the exact moment you realize you are alone, and that this is a blessing. The true man is the one who becomes his own salvation. If this offends you, then like this video and leave. Yes, leave. I have no sweet words for souls still craving an emotional bottle, but if you can stand it, if some part of you resonates with this uncomfortable truth, then subscribe now. Because here we do not feed fragilities, we burn illusions. And I tell you more, the only possible salvation is self-creation. Become your own mother. Support yourself, guide yourself, nurture yourself with the firmness no one ever offered. This is not regression, it is transmutation. It is when the wounded child bows before the creator he has become. It is when weakness finds refuge within its own strength. And then the prison opens, the new internal. Motherhood is nothing cute. It does not lull you with sugary songs nor wrap you in blankets of pity. It teaches you to cut the umbilical cord with the blade of lucidity. To be your own mother is to be your own master, with tenderness, yes, but also with demand. It is to set boundaries, not to punish you, but to free you from repetition. It is to offer comfort, not to anesthetize you, but so you do not seek it at every corner of need. This revolution does not shout. It happens in silence when you stop seeking approval and begin to give yourself permission. When you stop wanting to be loved and begin to be love. But how to love yourself if all you believe yourself to be is inherited noise? There lies the dirtiest trick in the history of civilization, convincing you that your voice is your own, when in fact it is an echo of frustrated parents, wounded mothers, hollow teachers, decaying churches. Yourself is an emotional Frankenstein, assembled with pieces you never chose, and you still pride yourself on it. I am like this. No, you were made like this. True awakening begins when you dare to deconstruct that character, when you tear off the costume of identity and say, this is not me, this is inheritance. And then, naked, you begin to write your own name on the flesh of existence. Most of you still live under the yoke of a past you do not even consciously remember. And that is the most tragic. Repeating childhood like a scratched record, unaware that the needle should already be on another groove. You inherit not only traumas but patterns, languages, modes of feeling, and call them destiny. The mother who screamed still screams inside you. The one who silenced still silences your voice. The one who suffered still scripts your choices, and you believe you are free. Freedom, I repeat, is not forgetting the past. It is consciously choosing not to repeat it. This demands vigilance. It demands will. It demands the kind of greatness that frightens even the gods. But of course, it is easier to call this respect. Yes, respect for the mother, respect for culture, respect for tradition, all these pretty names to justify the cowardice of not reinventing oneself. I ask you, when did respect become synonymous with submission? When did fidelity to pain become a virtue? Humanity bows before mediocrity with the devotion of a slave before the whip. But the superior man does not repeat. He reinvents. He does not perpetuate cycles. He breaks them. And when they call him ungrateful, he smiles, because he knows that gratitude that demands stagnation is only another form of control, and he was born to be free. Do you want to be great? Then prepare to be hated. There is no gesture more unforgivable to the small-minded than daring to grow where they withered. The mother who suffers will unconsciously wish you to fail too, not out of malice, but because your happiness throws her prison into relief. And you, coward, accept suffering just so as not to hurt her. With your success. What a beautiful farce. You call it empathy, but it is only emotional castration. Growing up is an act of solitary courage, and if you need to ask permission to fly, then your feet will never leave the ground. Flying is, above all, a crime against the morbid loyalty that sustains the dead roots of your family tree. They taught you that loyalty is to remain small, that loving is sacrificing your dreams on the altar of inherited pain, that growing too much is disrespecting the one who gave you life. I tell you, true respect for the mother begins when you become the man she could not be. It is not about surpassing her out of arrogance, but out of justice, because repeating her suffering does not honor her, it buries her deeper. And if your mother is alive, perhaps she needs to see that freedom is possible. Perhaps your victory is the only way to save her from the prison in which she still lives. But if she is dead, then honor her story by burning the script. Create a new one that belongs to you. You speak of love as if speaking of debt, as if every affection came with a moral bill to be paid with suffering. Emotional inheritance is not a lifelong contract, it is a challenge to be overcome. Yet you love to hurt yourself in the name of family. You justify your ruins with phrases like, she did the best she could. Yes, perhaps she did. And still, that is not enough. Growing is looking at what was given and saying, this no longer serves me. And then, creating something new, not out of disrespect but out of necessity. True love begins when you cease to be the consequence and become the cause. Become cause. That is the only possible redemption. When you stop reacting to the past and begin acting in the name of the future. When you stop obeying inherited pains and start creating your own values. You were not made to repeat, you were made to break. The eternal return, if you have understood, is not a condemnation. It is a test, a challenge to your ability to create something worthy of being lived again and again and again. But you repeat the same mistakes, with the same faces, in the same beds, crying the same grievances. And then you cry out for meaning. Meaning is not in the cycle, it is in the rupture. But breaking hurts, doesn't it? Ah, of course it hurts. That is why you prefer to repeat. The old is comfortable, even when it wounds. Prison has routine, rules, security. Freedom does not. It demands responsibility, presence, courage. And this you have not yet learned to cultivate. That is why you call reconciliation what is only accommodation. That is why you say, I have forgiven while still bleeding in silence. I tell you, there are pains that should not be forgiven. They should be transcended. To forgive is not to forget. It is to stop obeying what wounded you. It is to go on, even with the scar still open. If you are bleeding, fine. Bleeding is a sign that you are alive. But what do you do with that blood? You lick your wounds or write with it a new gospel. I did not come here to staunch your suffering. I came to ask if it serves something greater, if your pain is still pure echo or has already become creation. Most of you suffer in vain. You suffer as a form of belonging, as an identity ritual. But there is another path, the Creator's path, what transforms pain into power, what makes of the tear a cry and of the cry a gesture. That is the true man. The rest are merely children crying for mothers who are no longer there. The creative soul begins when the son dies. Yes, the son, the one who waits, who depends, who obeys. That one must die, not physically, but symbolically. Because as long as your identity is glued to the role of son, you are nothing but an emotional extension of another story. And I ask you, how long will you live to redeem wounds that are not even yours? How long do you hide behind inherited trauma to justify your stagnation? The birth of the Creator demands this. Mourning, a conscious, deliberate mourning. Mourning for the boy who waited to be saved, and the roar of the man who decided to suffice unto himself. Perhaps now you feel anger, or sadness, or resistance. Excellent. That means you are alive. That something inside you begins to move or break. Let it break. The old I needs to collapse so a new one can emerge. Yes, this is frightening. But what is life, if not an endless wonder? You were taught to seek stability, but I tell you, the soul needs earthquakes. Without upheaval, there is no awakening. So if this video is bothering you, and share it, spread the discomfort, break the silence. Because perhaps, just perhaps, someone on the other side of the screen is also ready to stop being a child and begin to be force. You keep talking about finding yourself as if the soul were a lost object under the bed. But I tell you, there is nothing to be found, only what needs to be created. The who am I you repeat so often is a poorly formulated question. The real question is, who am I willing to become despite all they did to me? This demands courage. Courage to say, I reject myself, not as self-denial, but as renunciation of what was forced down your throat. I reject this fear that is not mine. I reject this neediness that was inherited. I reject this guilt that was implanted. And thus, I begin, not with answers, but with fire. Yes, fire. Because without destruction, there is no true birth. The phoenix does not meditate. It ignites. And you too will need to burn your most cherished beliefs, those that still protect the image of the mother as saint or martyr. Enough. Neither goddess nor victim. Just a woman. Imperfect, flawed, human. And you? You are only the partial result of that story. But you can be the author of the next chapter, if you have the courage to write with blood, not with tears. If you have the courage to break the altar where your childhood is still worshipped. It is in that moment that the man emerges. He is not born. He emerges, like one who tears his own skin to get out. Ah, but you still ask, and what about love? Love. True love does not arise from neediness, but from fullness. While you seek in another what your mother did not give you, you do not love, you beg. Love is not a salve for a wound, it is an expansion of power. It is not a plea for help, it is an overflow. Only he who suffices to himself can love without losing himself. Only he who has recreated himself can look into someone's eyes and say, I do not need you, and that is why I choose to love you. Everything else is theater, poorly rehearsed drama. Grown children playing at hurting themselves romantically. Love, my friends, is for adults, for those who have already buried the remnants of childhood. And let no one confuse this with coldness. The true man is not the one who has become stone, but the one who ceased to be sponge, who no longer absorbs others' pains as destiny, who no longer lives to be the reflection of the mother's gaze, of the father's, of societies. He is not cold, he is whole, and for that reason he loves more deeply than any sentimentalist, because his giving is not dependence, it is presence. He does not need to please, nor to prove, nor to beg. He simply is. And this being, that indeed, is dangerous, because it cannot be controlled, because it carries no guilt, because it has already slain its ghosts and now walks on its own feet. The human who has freed himself from the archetypal maternal figure has not become ungrateful. He has become free. And this freedom is scandalous to those who still live kneeling. They will call you selfish, insensitive, emotional heretic, because your autonomy reveals their dependence, because your light blinds them. But do not worry, it is the price of greatness. Every real rupture generates rejection. You are like Prometheus, who stole fire, not for himself, but so others could see that it was possible to kindle their own flame. But until they are ready, they will hate you for shining where they preferred to extinguish themselves. And perhaps you yourself resist this freedom. Yes, there is a sick pleasure in remaining wounded. The wound gives you identity, makes you special, keeps you tied to the past, to the mother, to pain. But I challenge you, dare to no longer need that. Dare to be someone without needing to justify your existence by traumas. Dare to be new. Dare to be light. This will demand renunciations. It will demand that you stop telling yourself the same stories as always, that you abandon the comfort of known sadness. But on the other side of this abyss, there is life, and not just any life, a life of your own, created by you and no one else. You did not come into the world to honor scars, you came to create constellations, but while your compass is the pain of your mother, your steps will remain circular. Hear this, there is a time when even love must be left behind, not because it ceased to exist, but because it prevents you from going further. That is the most difficult love, letting go, moving on, not repeating. The love that says, thank you for giving me life, now I will use it. And whoever truly loves understands. Whoever does not understand still loves like a child. And the time of children has passed. Now is the time of creators. If you have come this far, you perhaps already know that this video was not about your mother. It was about you, about how you used that figure to hide your cowardice, about how you clung to an archetype to justify your paralysis, but it was also about your power. Yes, your power. Because if you were capable of internalizing a prison, you are also capable of forging an exit. The key is in the same place from which the chains came, inside. And if you feel that your time has come, then write in the comments, I am the rupture. Let the world know that a man has just been born, and that he will never crawl again. And if you still doubt, look around. You see this numbed society, made of infantilized adults, codependent relationships, spiritualities that resemble emotional nurseries. All this is the fruit of what was not cut, of what was not questioned, of what was not transmuted. The world does not need more wounded children seeking mothers in foreign bodies. The world needs whole adults, human beings who chose to grow even without a manual, even without permission. People who stumble, but do not retreat, who feel fear, but do not surrender, who bleed but walk. So if this message struck you, do not consume it in silence. Shout along with me, with your voice, with your gesture, with your life. Subscribe to this channel, not for my vanity, but because you are ready to be challenged always. Here there is no room for the fragile who prefer consolation over truth. And if you truly want to give thanks, do something greater. Live differently. Break with repetition. Create your new lineage. Become your own ancestor. And may your descendants, if they come, inherit not your wounds but your courage. The truth is this, no one owes you anything, neither your mother, nor your father, nor your ancestors, nor God. All that was given to you, good or bad, was raw material. What you do with it is your responsibility. You can keep molding shackles with that clay, Or you can erect an unprecedented, fierce sculpture of your own. You can continue worshipping the ruins of the past, or begin building your cathedral with them. What you call trauma can be the origin of your great work, if you have the courage to use it. If not, it will be only another excuse to live small. And if you ask me what maturity is, I answer, it is when you become your own home. When you no longer expect comfort because your own presence suffices. When your wounded child finds in you an adult capable of welcoming, without drama, without victimhood, without escape. This is being whole. This is being free. This is being dangerous to a world that profits from your dependence. The system wants eternal, needy, confused children. But a whole man? A man who does not idolize, does not beg, does not blame. That man does not sell himself. That man makes history. Therefore, if there is something to be destroyed, let it be the altar of idealization. If there is something to be honored, let it be your capacity to be reborn. Childhood's time is over. The time of the echo has ended. Now is the time of creation. To write your name in the world with letters forged, in overcome pain. To live without apologizing for existing. To love without being enslaved. To be your own beginning. And if this seems lonely, it is because you have not yet experienced the fullness of being your own universe. Now go. Go and dismantle the image of the mother you have carried all your life. Not to reject her, but to free yourself from her. Thank her and move on. Take with you only what transforms. Return the rest to the collective unconscious, where it belongs. And when you are ready for the next challenge, come back here, because I, Nietzsche, still have much to say about your fears, your loves, your gods, and your masks. And if you still breathe, then you are still raw material for something grand. But remember, either you create yourself or you will remain only an echo, and the world is already full of them.